What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the #1 rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework, you know what I mean?
But this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
He did not tap.
Let's go! Let's go!
Okay, UFC 282 behind us. Man, that card was on pace to become, one of the best cards ever and ended pretty flat. I think everybody's debated decisions and draws and whatever they want to talk about. That's not what we're here to do today. We just got to move forward. Would you agree?
Of course, man. It was just one of those cards that, to be honest, could be left in the past.
Yeah, we've been hitting a little bit. We hit some money lines, hit some of our dogs, so we'll keep going. Chris Curtis, but we will move on to UFC Fight Night. Cannonier Strickland. This shapes up to be a decent card, and we will get into it. So the main event, we have Jared Cannonier, the Killer Gorilla, coming in at 15-6-0 against Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland coming in 25-5 or 25-4-0. And really, his record shouldn't be that because he spars so hard that his record's probably like 200, 300 something and something. Because the guy has taken a lot of shots. So you got to wonder going into this bout. It's going to be interesting. So the odds right now, best odds, we have Pinnacle at +100 for Cannonier, and we have Strickland coming in at -110 at Caesars. So if you look at this fight, man, I could honestly see Strickland potentially just outpointing and staying outside and managing that distance because he does it so well because he does spar so much. But then there's a side of me that is a little bit scared that maybe that last time is an opening the door for what's coming. More times that people are going to get to his chin, more times that people are going to touch him. Because if you look at him in his past couple of fights, he's been able to manage his distance so well, be able to touch up, use his jab, and just be so smart. And in his last fight against Pereira, I just don't know what he was doing. I don't understand what this is. He goes in fully like this and hands out, face up. It was just bad, dude. So I really don't know what to do with this one. The fact that it's even a pick 'em also, I'm just really not going to touch this one. I don't think the fight will go the distance. But I mean, who knows? It could. That's it right there. Like I'm going back and forth on this one. I'm going to pass it off to you. Maybe we'll get a little bit more clarity on this. But I'm going to stay off this one for now.
Well, if you think the fight doesn't go the distance, I think the value is definitely 100% coming in on Jared Cannonier here. Whenever we first talked about this fight, man, I feel like I was a little bit more on the Sean Strickland side. And after going back and watching tape and everything, I kind of find myself leaning with Derek Brunson. With Jared Cannonier. Just because, like, if you look at that fight with Derek Brunson, that's where my head was going is, he dropped that first round and he dropped it pretty bad, but whenever he started clipping him, and I know you can say, that Derek Brunson has like a glass chin and stuff, like he's a vicious dude if you let him get off. And Sean Strickland's not really known for his like KO ability and stuff like that. And if he gives Jared that opportunity, man, to start landing those deadly calf kicks and lets him get off for any sort of time period, I think it's going to be night for Sean Strickland. So I think he needs to come to this fight, and I think he needs to be a little bit more calm and collect as opposed to his reckless style. Because all the power, in my opinion, is on the Jared Cannonier side. And even if Sean Strickland can outvolume him, it's really only going to take one to set him back. So I lean Jared Cannonier, and I lean him by KO. But there's a reason why this line's kind of going back and forth throughout the week. And, sitting at a -104 right now, it's going to be a pick 'em, and essentially should be.
And perhaps that's my fear. I think that, Cannonier is going to actually try to close the distance on him and touch him. He's not going to get, the luxury that he got with Hermanson, who just didn't really touch him and sort of chased him and stayed away, just pretty much stayed off him. Didn't even shot takedown, from outside, wide away. And Cannonier is going to close that distance and just touch him. So I could see that. The thing is he going to be durable enough? And that's where my question is he going to be durable enough to circle off, get maybe touched and make it ugly? I don't know, man. And that's why I sort of lean what you're thinking, but it's probably not going to be a play for me today.
Yeah, he's never been finished at middleweight. So
Definitely. We move on to, I think, what is a lot more exciting. This is more a main event for me. I'm excited for this one. We have Arman Tsarukyan coming in at 24-1-0 against Damir Ismagulov coming in at 18-3-0. And right now, currently, you can get Damir Ismagulov at plus 165 dog at Pinnacle. And Arman Tsarukyan, you can actually get at minus 180 best odds at Caesars. So if you're looking at this, man, I want you to take this one away. We're gonna go back and forth, but so I'm leaning Sarukian. I'm just gonna say it out of the gate, and I think you might be too. But take it away. So let's see what you got.
Yeah, I'm for sure leaning Sarukian, but this line's fucking wide, man. Like on Battle Lines minus 184. I think there is better numbers out there, as you pointed out, but it's definitely going to be a close competitive fight. A lot of the issues that come in with Arman is the fact that he got taken down 6 times against Matus Grammer on his last one. And that's something that worries me going against a guy like Damir who could implement that similar game plan. Because at the end of the day, I really feel like this fight's going to go to decision. And I feel like it's going to be close and greasy. Not that I think this fight should be a pick 'em by any stretch, but I just think whenever you have two guys that have similar and clashing styles like these two, that you're going to end up with kind of a greasy judge's scorecard. So I lean Arman by decision. But if he starts off slow or gives Damir sort of any chances to work his way into this fight, then it could get relatively greasy.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to be really aggressive with the takedowns because Ismagulov's takedown defense is 90%, right? And he has a pretty good sample size. So, but I think so we're going to be able to take him down. And when he does, he's going to have to be making him pay. Actually, me and T-Shay Guthrow were talking about this today. He's going to have to be and do what he does already. And we've seen this. So Ricky has to be opportunistic with every moment and land when he's in dominant positions and make sure he's making Ismagulov pay for being on the ground with him. So even if it gets back to the feet, obviously, I think, I mean, on the feet, Sarukian has power, and I think that'll be fun to watch that battle back and forth because Ismagulov is, dynamic on the feet as well too. So yeah, man, I think I'm gonna lean Sarukian with this one, and this is an example of where you definitely want to be line shopping, man. You got to find like minus 180 is decent, but if the line, depending on where the people are betting, try to find your best line wherever you can. If you can even shave 10 points off by line shopping, you got to get that done. So we will lean into the next fight on the card. And this one, actually, I'm going to be completely straight up. And this is the one that I probably didn't get enough tape in on. Probably the only one I didn't really get enough tape in on. So I do want you to take a lead on this one. We have Alessandro Costa coming in at 15-1-0. Amir Albazi coming in at 11-2-0. The one thing we know Costa is going to bring to the table is takedowns. We know that there's some power as well too, but man, with Albazi's second fight in the UFC, I don't really, and not seeing as much tape, it's more of a show me situation, and I'm really more staying off it anyways, unless I can get more tape in before the end of the week. Like we said, it's a hobby until it's not, right? So we got to go to work too. But for you, if you could pick up the slack for me on this one, what is your take on this one? We have Alejandro Costa. He's coming at plus 352 at Pinnacle. And then Albazi is now minus 425 is your best line you're going to get on him at DraftKings.
Yeah, so like if you look at Costa, what's the widest line on the card? But it's widest line on the card for a reason. Because if you look at Costa, he fought on Dana White Contender Series, won that fight by split decision. It was a relatively competitive fight. I thought he did win, but once again, it's split, right? So it wasn't overly convincing. Dana White didn't give him the contract. He went back to Lux Fight League, and then he beat Carlos Gomez 6-3. Not the worst level of competition, but far from the best. If you look at the fights that he's been winning by, he's generally kind of likes to wrestle, and that's where I just feel like he's going to be outmatched here. Because you look at Amir Albazi, he's supposed to fight Brandon Royval. He's fought some of the tougher level of competition, and a guy that I believe kind of took a break away from the sport. We haven't seen him quite as much as we'd like to, but now he seems to be coming back in. And man, this guy's gonna be the top of the flyweight division. Like you gotta look at like Zalgaz Zumagulov, right? He won his last fight despite what anybody thinks. And if you look at most of his fights, they go to split decisions, and there's a heavy argument for his way. This is one of the only fights that he had with Zalgaz where like he actually handled him in that fight. So he's a big guy for the division, man, and I just think he's going to come in there and get the job done.
And if you were like, because for me, I don't really have it. Like, I'm not going to touch an angle on it, especially because the line's wide. If you're attacking this, if there is a way to attack it, how do you attack it?
I think you attack Amir Albazi inside the distance. You'll probably hear other people say that as well, but it's just the thing is, so let's see, on Bet Online, if you can get him inside the distance, you get it at minus 160, right? So you're taking that big plus or that big favorite, and turning him into like a relatively playable price. Because at the end of the day, like KO is plus 400, submission is plus 110. But like anybody else, man, if you end up on top, you start throwing bombs, you're gonna be real pissed if you took that just that straight shot. So
Okay, we will move on to the next fight on the card. We have Alex Caceres against Julian Erosa. This is definitely an interesting fight, man. This is actually going to be potentially this could be a fun fight to watch, to be honest. These two have been in the UFC for quite some time now. Obviously, Caceres has been around for absolute ever. Caceres coming in at 19, 13, and 0. Julian Erosa, 28, 9, and 0. Caceres coming in at plus 150 dog from Caesars. And Caceres a minus 169 favorite at Pinnacle. If we look at Erosa, I mean, his win condition a lot of the time has been on the ground, has been his submissions. And what does he do? He gets into these ugly, drag him out wars where he's bloody and sometimes wins. You know, like he is a good dog to pick at times. But I think every fight his line was getting wider and his dog chance was getting wider. But when you look at this one, I mean, this is a fight he could be in. I don't know if they're just throwing both guys a bone or what, but both guys could stand on the feet. I think Erosa is a little bit more deadly on the feet. He's a little bit more damaging on the feet. Caceres, if we're looking at it, he has that karate style. He's going to point you, trick you, and he tricks you into some trips, and he finds his way to your back, gets you on the ground as well too, and that's where Erosa wants to go. So that's why I think this is going to be pretty interesting. It likely could play around on the cage a little bit, and on the feet rather than getting to the ground. What's your take on this one? I think, if you're asking me to look at Alex Caceres as a dog against Julian Erosa, I'm probably just gonna, if I were to just bet it, or tell you, I'd say go with Caceres as the dog. Because I think there's opportunity there for him to even actually potentially catch a opportunistic submission where maybe Erosa's stunned or whatever else, and or just winning a decision, a grimy decision, and Erosa on the flip side, the same thing. So I don't know, it could go either way, but that's why. I mean, I like Caceres dog money plus 150. Nothing too crazy. I'm not making it a big pick, but that would be my play. What's your take on this one?
yeah, to be honest, I've had a really hard time with this one, man. Because like I look at Julian Erosa and I look at him as more of like the brawler, kind of get in your face, and he kind of wins fights by, as you said, like being overly aggressive, and he just takes minutes away from you. And in retrospect, with Alex Caceres, he kind of likes to point fight. He knows he's not going to get the KO or anything like that, especially at this point in his career. So he just kind of, the whole bicycle mentality, wants to stick away and land that jab, land those kicks. So I agree with you. I probably think this fight's going to go to decision too. The only line that's really sticking out to me, and this is just a shot in the dark, is Split. Alex Caceres. What?
Split.
No. The Alex Caceres submission prop at plus 1,000, because he has 2 submissions in his last 4 fights. And it seems to me that, like, whenever, from watching at least his more recent tape, that he's trying to avoid getting hit, and he doesn't like getting into these firefights anymore. I said the guy's kind of weathered. He's been in the UFC for, 10 plus years. So he tends to approach his grappling a little bit more than he actually does his striking. And as I said, like, he's just, he's grabbing that neck now, right? He doesn't really, I said, he's still point fights, but you give him the opportunity, he's going to grapple now. So he's got a black belt as well. And at plus 1,000, man, I'm not going to say no to it. I'm definitely going to take a shot.
Like I said, if I had that friend that doesn't even really watch the MMA, but he likes the sports bet, and he says, hey, this fight right here, I'm going to bet it. What do I have to do? I would say bet Caceres, take the dog shot, because it's worth it at this point. And who knows, the line could get a little bit wider depending on perception. I don't know. It may just sort of stick around this. It might, likely will, but who knows? We'll see. But as we move on, we'll take a look at the next fight on the card. We have Drew Dober coming in at 25, 11 and 0 against Bobby Green. Yes, boy. 29, 13 and 1. Right now, you can get Dober at Pinnacle at minus 141. Green coming in at plus 132 at Unibet. So if we're looking at this fight, I mean, obviously we know what Bobby Green does. He technically very technical with the boxing, but ends up in close bouts because of his boxing. If he was more, I mean, him and Adrian Yanez can be compared to because they both really rely on their boxing and their slips and the way they roll their shoulders, and they look like they get hit more than they do. But the difference is Yanez makes people pay a hell of a lot more than Green does. Green doesn't technically do that. And until he does that more consistently, I'm not going to be able to back that he's going to do that in this one. I'm going to let you take this one away, though. Drew Dober coming in with that pedigree, that's striking, and will likely this is going to be on the feet and be very interesting, man. I'm very interested to see how this one plays out. It could go the distance, and how it hits on the scorecards, I'm not quite sure. So, I mean, another situation, there's a couple of these fights, man, where they're closely tied and you're like, I don't know, could go either way. Be careful on the dogs that you pick this week because you could dog yourself out of your bankroll. Take it away.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with that assessment there, man, because a lot of people are kind of just going dog heavy, and I don't necessarily see it that way on a lot of these ones, man. I feel like there's a lot of close fights, but a lot of close fights where favorites should kind of slide their way to victory. I think just people are shocked because you're actually getting decent lines, you know? You're not getting a card that's bloated with minus 200 favorites and minus 400s and stuff like that. So I think people are just a little bit more cautious on that side of it. As for the breakdown, man, yeah, I got to side with Drew Dober here. Like, I like Bobby Green, definitely one of my favorite fighters, but it's just one of these guys you don't know where his head's at, man. Whenever he comes in, if he can get himself going, then he could be one of the best guys in the world. But in retrospect, whenever he starts getting hit, he showboats too much. He actually get Diaz, and we all know, as much as we're all diehard fans of Diaz, is that kind of style hasn't really worked for them in actually winning the fights that they're in. So you can talk all the shit you want. Drew Dober is going to throw the far better power. He has a wrestling background that he can always resort to. And unless Bobby Green can really get in some sort of flow state, I see this being Drew Dober all day.
Actually, you sort of remind me of a good point that, Bobby Green has a bad habit like Neil Magny has a bad habit. Neil Magny was getting hit in his last fight, and he was falling into the cage as this sort of reactionary thing. Like, he wasn't even getting hit hard. He was just getting touched, and he would sort of fall into the cage as sort of a way to spring off and do something with it. And to some judges, it looks like he's getting hit and it looks bad to judges. Well, Bobby Green, when he gets hit, he sort of reacts. You'll see him react, and he sort of like gives it to the judges saying, hey, like, yeah, I did get hit. And he sort of gives attitude back at times. There's different things that he does to react. And he does do a fall off as well too when he gets hit. There's a sort of attitude with it. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't work well. You end up getting outpointed on stuff that's not even landing. And what happens is you end up, wasting a career with a guy who has good stand-up. And, you'll have a situation where Dober will probably pull away in numbers and strikes, and some of them will be phantom. But it is what it is. Yeah, man, I don't know. Either way, I'm going to probably stay off of this one. This is one of the ones where I think it's just too greasy. I think that, Dober does have more of the tools. He has, more dynamic striking, able to utilize the kicks as well. But yeah, I think for me, it'll be a stay away. But your assessment is on point. Next fight on the card we have, and I'm pretty excited for this one. We have Michael Olajaychuk, 17-5-0, coming in at Cody Brundage, 8-2-0, and Cody Brundage coming in as the dog at plus 230 at Caesars. Michael Olajaychuk, best odd at minus 274 at Pinnacle. And so I'm going to let you take this one away. I think we're going to be similar in thought. I don't know where my pick's going to lie, but I already sort of got wind as to where you're leaning on this one. I'll let you take this away, and I will follow up.
Yeah, man. Cody Brundage is my dog of the week, man. I've been cashing dog tickets from this guy since he got in the UFC. Everybody's kind of tried to fade this guy time and time again, and it shows obviously reflective in the line. And this guy's just been a moneymaker for me. I think his striking is underrated, and I think his wrestling is the only thing people like to talk about. But for a good reason, man. Like, if this guy takes you down, man, he can do work. He's a strong, muscular dude. Kind of reminds me of Sean Sherk from back in the day. He's got 2 first-round finishes already inside the UFC, and he has that loss to Nick Maximov. But, at the end of the day, you put 2 aggressive wrestlers against each other. One of them's got to win. With Michael Olajaychuk, people talking like this guy's gonna be the next world beater in some of these podcasts. His last win was over Sam Alvey, who was what 0-10 in his last 10 fights. Shamil Gamrot, no longer in the UFC. Mateusz Batelkis, once again, butcher's name, I apologize, no longer in the UFC. So I don't understand why this line is so wide. He dropped down in weight and he KO'd Sam Alvey. So what's the big whoop with it? Like, I don't understand where you're getting like a minus 200. So I like Cody Brundage all day, man. I think he's gonna not necessarily the better striking, but definitely the better cardio. And at the end of the day, Michael, even if he comes in crazy like he did with Sam Alvey, the guy used to gas out at light heavyweight. So I think he's going to find himself in a similar position, especially if Cody can get a heavy wrestling pace going.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that. I mean, Cody in his last fight, he showed a wrinkle to everybody, I think. He was actually in the pocket, slipping punches, and landing. And then that's how he finished the fight, by slipping punches and landing. And he is known for his wrestling. My breakdowns on him have always been about, wrestling. And then the last time you can see a little bit in tape on the striking, and then boom, he comes out and just dusts. And 1 second, who was it that he dusted in his last fight? 1 second. So I was trying to get it before. Tresean Gore. That's right. So he comes out and he dusts Tresean Gore. So man, I think the line is extremely wide. Now, the only thing I'm going to challenge you on with this is with Michael Olajaychuk, he is pressure and hell incarnate. He lands with fucking cement bricks and he does it at will. And man, he can take a shot. He's got a brick head, Polish brick head, the Polish hammer. Here's the thing, man. Those guys that he beat out of the UFC, he beat them out of the UFC. I gotta argue, not necessarily Sam Alvey, but he beat the shit out of those guys in those fights. They weren't the same coming out of some of those fights, right? So I don't think it's just a case of like he just fought shitty people, because you can see how he fights. He goes forward and he's landing at like he's just lands at will and lands big shots. But that being said, the line should definitely not be where it is right now. It's steaming. It's absolutely crazy. And I fully see your dog shot. And for the value, I'm gonna have to go with you on this, man. I don't know if we'll make it like dog of the week just straight up. It has to be like dog with value play, because it's just fucking it's ridiculous. The
Yeah.
line's just it's getting crazy, because if you look at it, if I have two guys that are going to stand and bang, and we have Olajaychuk, who's been in big wars, who can land some big shots, but you have someone who shows that he has boxing that's improving every time he steps in the cage in Brundage, and he stands and can bang with them. But then if he can't, he has the wrinkle of wrestling. If he takes us to the ground, he could smash him on the ground underneath them. So I just think that there's avenues for Brundage way more, and I think he's been underrated the same way you're saying. But I just had to sort of speak on behalf of Olajaychuk, because I think you were shitting on him just a little bit there.
Shit, no, but think about it.
I'm
Brundage, but think about it. Brundage trains at Factory X Muay Thai too, right? So
Yep.
he's training with a bunch of fucking killers that are in the UFC too. So I just think he's been a little disrespected, you know?
I'm with you. No, I think he is. I think this line's way too wide, and I think it's a shot. So we will add it to as one of our picks this week, most definitely. The moment you said it on the chat, I was like, yeah. Even though I don't want to fade Olajaychuk, the line just tells me I have to. If it was under 200, I probably wouldn't.
Minus 275 is fucking greasy.
Yeah, it's greasy as fuck. Okay, next fight on the card. We have Cheyenne Vlismas, 7-2-0 against Corey McKenna, 7-2-0. So right now you can get Cheyenne Vlismas for plus 162 at Bet365. And McKenna coming in at minus 188 at Bet365 as well. I don't know if it's a recency bias that this line is probably going to get wider because of how McKenna looked in her last fight. I think McKenna was someone that people kept underrating for a while, and she actually is a little bit of a real deal here. But then we have Vlismas, who has had a good outing in her last two fights, but hasn't fought in almost a year. So there's a little bit of question marks there. But so dig into this. Well, we know what she's been doing for the past year, but I will leave that one off the table right now. Our boy, our dog, 2 weeks ago. But if we look at it, man, Corey McKenna is obviously going to try to make this a wrestling event. She's going to want to try to take her down and smash her. Vlismas will be able to try to keep it outside on the distance. She's going to try to basically use movement, circle off the cage, and try to land at will. If it does go to the ground, I mean, she could still get back to her feet. She still has some decent grappling game. She does about talking about Blismus, but Corey McKenna is probably going to take her down a couple times. And Corey McKenna's looked a little bit vicious in her last couple fights. Would you agree?
Slightly.
Slightly. I'm not trying to back her so big. I think she's underrated for what she's done so far, right? In this fight, really, you could go either way, and I know you're pretty much gonna be like, I'll let you say whatever you're gonna say on this fight.
Women's MMA bet overs.
Yeah, well, we're going to definitely hit the over on this one. I think that's definitely a play. But I think if this stays on the feet, I think it's live either way. I think that Blismus has the cleaner, nicer striking that'll be able to stay on the outside and maybe tag her up and make it look a lot nicer on the judges by winning some moments. McKenna's going to have to make it a little bit uglier, get closer, elbows, use some boxing, get in there and grind up on the cage. What is your take on this one? I will likely take the dog shot on this one, but the over 1.5 is definitely the play on this one. I don't know what it is, but it will be pushed into some parlays all day.
Yeah, I like Cheyenne, man. I think Corey McKenna is good, but she's very, very young. Like, she was born in 1999. Okay, she's 23 years old. You're old, and I think I'm old, but you're a lot older than me. And, like, dude, she was almost born in the year 2000. Like, I think she's just got so much more to go. I think that the fights where she stayed on her feet, she's shown a lot of vulnerability. And I think this is just kind of a bad matchup for her. I think Cheyenne's just going to be able to control the distance, stop the takedowns. And as I said, I think she's going to be outclassed on the feet. Her last fight, she looked good.
She did.
But she was facing, and I can always forget this girl's name.
Miranda, was it Granger? No,
Granger. Yeah, it was Granger. So
yeah.
Miranda Granger, like, she got taken down, man, and she had just no offense off her back. Like, she barely tried to get up. She's on a 3-fight losing streak. Her last win was to Hannah Goldie in 2019. And
OnlyFans?
That's it. And that's her only win inside the UFC, man. I believe she's married to Tim Elliott, and I feel like it's probably the only reason why she'll probably get another fight in the UFC. So it's not really a fade on Corey McKenna. She's a relatively large dog in this fight. It's just, I think that they need to keep putting her up against that level of competition just to get her confidence. She needs to improve her striking. Her grappling's on point. It's just, I feel like she's at that point in her career where she needs like solid coaching to kind of like really develop a game and get the experience in the UFC to start utilizing it. Because she seems lost on the feet, man. And even whenever she gets the fight to the ground, you know, I'm shitting on her a little bit, but you know, she could surprise me.
Over 1.5.
Over 1.5.
All right. And we move on. This next fight is definitely interesting. Somebody who I've faded, who burned me last time he fought, and someone who I backed who burned me, I don't even know how many times at this point. I think twice at least. So we will get into it. Jake Matthews, 18-5-0 against Matthew Semmelsberger, 10-4-0. Right now you can get Matthew Semmelsberger dog money at plus 225, bet 365. And the best number on Matthews is minus 267 at bet 365. This line is getting out of control. It's a little bit of recency bias, but at the same time, it's likely how it's going to play out. You know, the big thing about Matthew Semmelsberger is in order for him to be successful, he's actually got to land and plant. You know, he's going to have to plant and throw a big shot. When he plants and throws a big shot, he leaves himself exposed for a takedown. If Jake Matthews wants to go back to his old fold, he'll take him down. And that's really, you know, all he has to do is utilize this new fold of boxing that we've seen that he brought to the fold, and Jake Matthews, I mean, in his last fight, and try to draw Semmelsberger into throwing some big shots and then just take him down and utilize the wrestling, right? That's sort of the way it should be played. Jake Matthews comes in with, you know, I get why the line's starting to creep wider. He does have the huge strength of schedule. His whole career is in the UFC, right? And Semmelsberger has sort of been fed people that initially worked for him, and now it's just like he's just getting out pointed and beat up, and it doesn't look good, man. It doesn't look good at all. If we were to look at this one, I think the path to victory for Semmelsberger, man, he's just gonna have to avoid those overcommitting. You know, he's going to have to avoid overcommitting, and he's going to actually have to make it ugly on the cage and try to avoid takedowns from Jake Matthews. If Matthews wants to actually do that, I mean, I'm just sort of, I guess, banking on the fact that Matthews might come in with some wrestling. If he comes in and just strikes, he gives Semmelsberger his wing condition. That's the only thing that scares me. But man, you were just as surprised as me, I would imagine, Matthews came out, and when he landed on Fialho, that looked fucking dope. And I know Fialho is sort of there to be hit. He really is. He sort of marches forward, but Matthews' boxing looked really solid in that one. What's your take on this one? Obviously, I'm going to go with Matthews as a side. I just think that momentum, avenues, strength of schedule, just everything screams Matthews, obviously, and so does the line. But how do you attack this one, and what's your play?
Yeah, to be honest, like I honestly really like Matt Semelsberger. I just think this is another bad fight. Like, I think he takes fights just because he knows he can brawl. And I just think they're just bad ideas, man. Like, if I'm being honest, like it's just, with Matthews, like it's a guy that doesn't fight that often, man, but the guy's got stones in his hands and his boxing's actually on point. So, I think where the real value is, man, Jake Matthews by KO is plus 375 because he doesn't have a lot of KOs on his record. And I think that's a fucking steal. The points are plus 115. So they're expecting this to go to a decision. But I think he's going to find that chin, man. I think he's going to come in here overly aggressive. And I think he's just going to be able to put Matt Semelsberger out.
See, that scares me though, right? Because it's just sort of the recency bias of what he did in his last fight. So as much as that does sound like a sneaky, sharp play, it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's almost a show me spot to see if this is the guy or not. But for me,
But they're still giving you, but that's the thing, they're still giving you a fucking good line on that KO. So they haven't really, like, if you look,
yet?
well, yeah, I don't know. He does seem to have a chin. He's been KO'd twice, submitted once. He fought Thick Willie on his amateur record. Didn't know that.
If I would do anything, I would probably do the double down and do the KO and decision.
Yeah.
I think that might be the smarter play just in case is if Semmelsberger were to last all the way through it. But yeah, man, I just don't see Semmelsberger winning this one. I think Matthews is aside, and we will potentially make a play out of that one. So next fight on the card, we have Julian Marquez 9-3-0 coming in against Deron Winn 7-3-0. Right now, Deron Winn can be had at plus 145 at Caesars. Julian Marquez coming in at minus 167. This is a man, I don't know, man. I hope this fight ends quick, to be honest. Deron Winn, sort of a guy that has the wrestling to use, but the fight IQ goes out the window. I don't know what it is. He still does manage to get some takedowns, but it's not really working for him. Like he can't really utilize it for himself because that's his strength, right? And if you're going to be a wrestler, then you have to land big shots. If you're going to be a wrestler, you have to be able to control in certain circumstances and not give up, a sweep or not give up, a position on the cage. So I don't know, man. Deron Winn coming in against Julian Marquez. This man seems a little bit live to me. But the Krause thing, you think the Krause thing is going to be a distraction for him or what?
Not necessarily, man. I think these fighters are smart enough where they've moved on and, they may not have their head coach there, but like what people understand, that ban is solely on Krause. It's not a ban on his gym. Well, it's a ban on his gym, quote unquote, but it's not like these guys can't go and train in other resources. Like they can't be associated with James Krause. James Krause has already said he's going to sell the portion of his gym. It's already something that's going through the motion. I'm sure he's not even at the gym at this point. I'm sure he's fully stepped away. And fighters, like anything else, man, they adjust quick. So it's not like James Krause is their head striking coach, their head conditioning coach. Like he's the coach, game plans, he's involved. But there's so many other people behind the scenes that are probably still working with these athletes that I don't think it's as big of a narrative as people think it is. I could be wrong.
Yeah, we'll I think either way, I mean, you don't want to read too much into it, but I'm just wondering, it may affect one of them, right? It's going to affect one of them in the fight. They don't have him in the corner anymore. Not necessarily like the drama of it all, but just the change of it all, right? Mm-hmm. But in this fight, I think that Marquez's path to victory in this, if you want to look at a potential way to bet this fight, we have Julian Marquez right at minus 167. Wait till after the first round. Let Deron Winn get his takedowns in. Let Deron Winn maybe gas a bit, and then let Julian Marquez. And I know Julian Marquez is bigger and has gas in the past too, but he gasses in a different way. He can sort of hold on, and sort of make it ugly and have his mouth open and still slang. So I think let Deron Winn out wrestle himself and land a big shot late, catch Julian Marquez live after the first round.
I am going to be honest where I say I think this fight is going to fucking suck. And I think that Deron Wynn is probably going to hold on to him for the better part of 15 minutes. Julian Marquez does not have great takedown defense as much as he has a black belt.
53%.
Yeah,
No, I'm saying it's horrible.
yeah, exactly. Like I just feel like, and plus, like we say, man, you got to fade people with poor fight IQ. The unfortunate reality of this fight is they both have fucking terrible fight IQ. So it's kind of hard. Like, if you're going to tell me to fade one, I'm going to take the plus money. And if you're going to tell me to take the striker or the grappler, I'm going to take the grappler because we know that's 100% what Deron Wynn's going to do.
If you want to be involved in the ugly fight, then get in on Deron Wynn right now, plus 145. Get in on Julian Marquez live if his number gets wide enough, or get him whatever by KO and call it a day. Or, you know what? Here's the advice from the podcast. Stay off the fucking fight.
I'm going to take Deron Wynn by decision at plus 350 because I think he's going to lay on top of him for 15 minutes.
All right. You can put that on Twitter yourself. All right. All right.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I didn't think so. Next fight on the card, we have Said Nurmagomedov, 16-2-0 against Sadykhub Kakhramonov, 10-2-0. So this is a fight that a casual MMA fan or a casual bettor could run into some issues with if they don't at least find out, what would actually happen in this fight. You take a look at this by name, you look at Nurmagomedov 16-2-0, and you're thinking dominant wrestler, straight out of Dagestan, and that's the deal. Against Kakhramonov, and you're like, okay, probably a wrestler as well too. And you're thinking this is going to be potentially a grappling wrestling match, and that's it. But here is the wrinkle in this one. Nurmagomedov is really, essentially a lot more of a striker. Nurmagomedov right now actually coming in at minus 105. And Sadykhub Kakhramonov best line coming in at minus 104. So minus 104 at Unibet, and Nurmagomedov minus 105 at Caesars. So we got pick'em all over the place. The line is a little bit wider in some other spots. But if you're looking at this fight, you have Nurmagomedov who's going to come in with the striking. If it stays on the feet, has the advantage in the striking. But Kakhramonov is no slouch on the feet as well too, but is crafty in finding a way to get this to the ground. And really, if you look at it, I was all over the Kakhramonov side. If you remember, I don't know if it was a shoey bet, but I think it might have been. Was it a shoey bet? Because I remember you're a Ronnie Lawrence believer, and I believe it might have been a shoey bet. I'll have to look back at that. I maybe should have ahead of time, so we could replay it. Maybe you know what?
His hands when he's got you on the ground and he's working side control and doing what he's doing. But man, I'm leaning. I've been leaning and watching tape, and I'm leaning more on Sadykhub Kakhramonov on this fight. I think that he's going to be not only aggressive with his hands, but then also aggressive with any subs that come along the way. And I think that it's there. So I'm still a little bit torn because it's Ronnie Lawrence. And I think he's a guy who he's just so dominant with his approach. Where this poses a problem for people is Ronnie Lawrence starting the top ticket, Ronnie Lawrence being a guy that everybody's so sure of, and Ronnie Lawrence having you to re-up everything when the second fight starts. It could happen. And the first fight of the night, Lawrence gets finished. Your parlays get all blown up. I could see it.
So yeah, I think Kakhramonov just surprised everybody and ragdolled Ronnie Lawrence in that fight. Took him down, 9-10 times in that fight. And with Kakhramonov, man, he is a bit of a monster and a really aggressive grappler, and lands strikes when he's grappling with you as well too, and hunts for submissions nonstop. Path to victory for Nurmagomedov obviously is to stay around the outside and try to. I mean, he's gonna have to. It's gonna be hard, man. I don't even know find a way how he's gonna be able to stay on the outside and be able to do this. He's gonna have to. I hope he's been working on his defensive wrestling, because I'm on the side of Kakhramonov on this. I hope that people come in and bet Nurmagomedov just by name, and we get a little bit of a better line on Kakhramonov. But that would be my play. I mean, I think either Kakhramonov by decision or late sub, man. I think you could drag him down, make it ugly, get him tired, and take his neck. And if Nurmagomedov, obviously his win condition would be to keep it at distance and look to likely win by decision, to be honest. But what's your take on this one? I'm on the Kakhramonov side, obviously.
Yeah, I start with you on this one, man. And so is the line at this point, because the lines on most books, at least the ones that I have access to, fuck you, James Krause, so not very many, they've all kind of switched at this point. I think with Said, I just think that his striking's good and he's kind of wild and unorthodox with it. But strikers like that always leave themselves open to heavy grapplers. I think
Oh
with
yeah.
Karkamonov, I think he's going to want to grapple 100% of the time. He's one of the guys that we saw in that Ronnie Lawrence fight that once he has a game plan, he sticks to it. There's no straying from the path. So he's got the cardio for it. I think this fight could get greasy down the stretch, but I think Saeed probably just takes him down and probably wins a 3-round decision. I'm sure Saeed will have his moments. I'm sure his get-up game will be fairly good, but I just feel like he's going to have Saeed on him the whole time.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point too. With Nurmagomedov, he's constantly throwing like big shots and spinning stuff at times too. Just leave yourself exposed. So if he comes with a game plan to not do that, he's taking away some of his value, some of his weapons. So yeah, fully on the Kakramanov side, that will likely be a play. I'll pick him as a side, and we'll probably go props on him as well too. But we'll find how we're going to play him. But he will be a pick, at least money line, and that will be one of our money line plays of the week. You would agree with that, obviously, no arguments.
I would agree for sure.
100%. I mean, after he traumatized you with the Ronnie Lawrence thing. And, oh, you know what? Can we take a moment? Actually, we didn't do this at the top of the show. Or you know what? We'll do it at the end. We'll do it at the end. We'll take a moment of silence for something later on. We have Mahashate coming in at 9-1-0 against Rafa Garcia 14-3-0. Mahashate can be had for plus 110 at Bet365 and Garcia minus 138 at the same book. If we're looking at it, man, Mahashate is like we don't have a crazy sample size of him yet and a lot of tape on him yet. But the fact is the guy can bang, the guy can strike, and it's fun to watch. Great footwork, and lands shots at will, very fast, very explosive. Decent takedown defense. The only thing is Rafa Garcia is he's a son of a bitch. So, you know, and you saw what he could do with, you know, Jesse Ronson. He was able to actually even stand and bang with him. And with Jesse Ronson, obviously that's sort of one of my points of view at being an Ontario boy, but at the same time, that was one of his last fights. Was that his actual last fight?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was the last fight. He was able to stand and bang with him. And at the same time, his wrestling is just really strong. And I don't know if for 3 rounds that Mahashate is going to be able to handle the entries from Garcia, the big overhands, and then the takedowns relentlessly. Garcia can go full 3 rounds. We were worried about his gas tank in the past. He sort of answered that question. So man, I mean, I don't know. The line right now is not too bad as far as I think it's pretty much aligned where it could be because I think Mahashate is the real deal, but I just don't know. Like this is going to be a huge test for him. This is a huge test for him. He wins this fight handily, then everybody needs to pay attention. So I might just stay off it altogether, but I'm sort of on the Garcia side. But what's your take?
Yeah, I'm on Garcia as well. I think Mahashate, as you said, like he's relatively unproven. And with Garcia, man, if there's one thing that's true about him, same thing as saying in the last fight, he's not one to go straight from what he does all, but primarily where he wants to be is within cage control. I know a lot of people, and I've heard another podcast bring up things, that fact that like, well, he doesn't actually have a lot of control time for the amount of takedowns that he lands, but it doesn't make a difference that he's still shooting for them. He's still averaging a high amount of takedowns. And at the end of the day, if you're a striker trying to throw punches, some dude diving at your legs, even if you're bouncing back up from your feet, it's still preventing you from landing power shots. So I feel like his style is going to be a little hard to deal with. He's very forward aggressive, and he really wants to be in your face. Where with Mahashate, yeah, he killed a lot of parlays that night whenever he KO'd, who was it? Steve Garcia, right? But other than that, like, I don't think too, it's not that I don't think too highly minimal. And I think Steve Garcia was kind of the perfect fight for him because the dude comes out and brawls. I just don't think Rafa Garcia is going to give him that opportunity.
Okay, next fight on the card we have Brian Battle against Rihat Fakhretdinov. That's a hard one to say. Fakhretdinov. How do you say this man's name? I even heard it 1,000 times on tape because he's one of the ones I watch most tape on. Fakhretdinov. Yeah, that's it.
Fakhretdinov. Yeah, Renat Fakhretdinov.
Fakhretdinov.
See, John, I can get one right. Fakhretdinov. I practiced this one.
Next fight in the card, Brian Battle, Renat Fakhretdinov. I'm just calling him Renat moving forward because I don't want to get demonetized by YouTube. I already have to blurt out as much as yours, bleep out as much as your shit as I can. Just joking. The first 5 minutes, as long as we bleep out the first 5 minutes, I throw a couple of goody goo goos up there, and then we roll. Okay, so next fight on the card, like I said, Brian Battle 8-1-0. He's coming in dog money plus 130 at Pinnacle. Renat Fakhretdinov 22-0 minus 150 at Caesars. I am a Battle backer, man. I'm a Battle believer. He just does a lot of things right, man. He's big, he's athletic. He has good stand up. He's able to use his distance well, good range management, and lands volume, man, and always active. Showed his killer instinct in his last fight against Takashi Sato. So man, I just think that he is a live dog here. I think that with Renat, we've seen him. What he said, what, one fight in the UFC, two fights in the UFC?
One fight in the UFC.
Yeah, it was only one fight that I saw. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like the takedowns are there. His stand up game is not really there. From what I could see, the stand up game is not really solid at all. It's there to be had, and I think if he even wants to entertain that idea, he probably won't. He's going to get outpointed on the feet, and even up against the cage, I think Battle can do a lot of work against him. I don't think he's that strong on the cage. I think where it's going to be a problem is if he gets on top of him. But can he grind him out for 3 rounds? Is he going to be active enough for 3 rounds? I just think Battle's the guy that he's a new like death taxes type situation. He's we got to find a new Chukagian, and I think he really is that. So I'm on the Battle side of this. I like just the money line. I just like the dog play. But I will manage what we're going to put out as actual suggested plays. So if we have too many dogs, we'll probably have to eliminate one. But for right now, I sort of nominate Battle, even potentially Battle by decision.
Well, I gotta go the other way, man. Just because.
There we go.
Yeah, because like I think with Brian Battle, man, I think we saw a lot in his last fight. The head kick KO was fucking impressive, but I just think that he's going to get grinded in this fight. He's taking this fight on very short notice. It's hard to tell what type of shape that he's in. And at the end of the day, like with Renat Fakhretdinov, see, John, I can say them. He's going to be able to take them down. And he's going to grind on them. Like we saw very clearly in the Michailidis fight, where where like everybody had then said this to take it. And it was very clear that with like Renat Fakhretdinov, like he just wants to be able to win the fights. Like he doesn't really care. He's a position over submission type guy.
You don't think Battle can maybe grind, get back to his feet and land shots, and then maybe get taken down again, but land shots, and then we have a Rafi and Stotts decision?
I do, but you gotta understand, man. Like he was training to fight Michael Morales. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he knew damn well that he was going to be in a heavy grappling battle because that fight would have been consistent like that. And with a guy like this, where his path to victory is not standing and he's going up against a guy like Morales, he's going to be training nothing but offensive wrestling and defensive wrestling. So this is just going to add to the reason why I think that he wins, because his original fight was far harder than this one. So I think that that's just going to be his game plan. I don't think he's going to stray from it. And I think he'll probably ride out a relatively boring decision with all of us cheering that Battle gets up and lands another head kick.
Okay. Next fight on the card, we have David Dvorak 24-0 coming in against Manal Kape 17-6-0. And right now, Dvorak can be had dog money plus 205 at Unibet. And Kape can be had minus 222 at Coolbet. Okay. So if we look at it, Dvorak was on a huge rise, had great momentum until he ran into a wall that is Matus Nicolau. And if you look at where Manal Kape, I mean, he's on a nice swing. We've gone back and forth about Manal Kape before, and he's someone who, although he has such a strength of schedule, he has the ability to be able to just explosively land big shots, guys fast. It's a mental game, man. I just don't know. And I don't know, although he's, back-to-back wins, finishes great, but it's definitely an interesting spot. The line may get even wider. Dvorak is someone I was looking at, but I don't know if I'm going to even take a shot at it. I was thinking potentially as a dog shot, but I don't know. I think if Kape does show up, he's going to handily win this fight. But I'm not really sold fully on him mentally. So Dvorak can pose problems for him on the feet, out volume potentially. Both guys are a little bit lower volume, but if Manel sort of ends up watching, he's about second half of the second round, and he's sort of standing there staring and watching what's happening, really not landing big shots, and that'll happen. Decisions get away from him, so I'll probably stay off this one. You may have a big play on this one, but it's another one of those situations where both guys are really talented. One guy's coming off a loss that didn't look so hot, and another guy is just someone I don't know if I can trust. So I will likely stay away from this line unless value is there on a wider line.
Yeah, so this fight heavily reminds me of last week whenever everybody I knew was on Bryce Mitchell. And I was like, man, I think Ilya beats the shit out of him. Like, and you know what? I just tuned out the noise and I stuck with my original pick. And I got to do it on this one too, man. Everybody I talked to was hyping up Dvorak.
Nice way to put it.
Yeah. Kate doesn't throw punches. You know, he doesn't win minutes. He's got to get the KO. Like, you watch this guy's career in Rising, man. Like, the guy's capable of putting it all together. He definitely has some mental blocks. But he's looked good since those first couple losses in the UFC, where he's kind of realized that he needs to go out there and put on the pressure. So I'm going to side with Cape on this one, man. As I said, I still think this guy makes it to the top of the division and has the potential of being champion one day. He's relatively young, and I just think that he's going to be able to – every single time we see him, I think we're going to see more progression. So I'm going to side with my original thought when I watched tape, and I'm going to stick with Manel Cape. Probably by KO, because that's usually how he wins his fights, but –
Okay, next fight on the card, we have Sergey Morozov against Journey Newsom. Sergey Morozov coming in at 18-5-0, and Newsom coming in at 10-3-0. Morozov can be had at minus 280 from Caesars, and we can get Newsom right now at plus 240 at Bet365. So initially, when looking at this fight, I'm not really a huge Newsom believer. But this line is a little bit crazy, I think. I don't know if you're with me on this, but in looking at Morozov, yes, we know that his wrestling game's strong. He does that smothering style. But at the same time, he'll stand with people. And his stand-up game isn't really that great. He can land big, powerful shots. But his head's out there to be had, man. He's exposed almost with every shot that he throws. You could say the same for his opponent in Newsom. Both guys, although Newsom does have nice boxing, he does just heads up there too. He marches forward, does land some good boxing, but is exposed as well too. But I think has the advantage on the feet. Now, if we look at it, if Morozov doesn't go to the wrestling and actually, try to not, he has to manage his gas tank with the wrestling in this one. And if he doesn't manage his gas tank with the wrestling in this one, he's going to be in trouble, man. Because Newsom doesn't mess around. If you take him to the ground, he's going to be active off his back. He's going to make you work. And that's his path to victory as the dog. If he's going to have to make Morozov work because Morozov is likely going to take him down. If Morozov doesn't, he's giving Newsom his win condition. And, Morozov definitely can handle it on the feet as well, too. But, I mean, just looking at this line just getting wider and wider. And I never thought I'd want to take a shot at Newsom. But man, a late KO is something that I think could happen. In his last fight against Paiva, he wins that fight, but he almost gets KO'd in the first round. He was on skates. So I think that Newsom has the power. I think he could land, but he's going to have to be smart on his entries. Like, he can't just march forward. He can't do that. If he marches forward, he's going to get taken down. And Morozov, the best thing for him, he shoots double legs in open field. If he shoots a double leg in open field, it's not going to cost him any cardio. And if Newsom gives it to him, that's the path to victory for Morozov. If it's a grindy situation up against the cage mixed with some, attacks, from Newsom off the back, and Morozov just gets tired, Newsom can get him out late, man. And I just think that this line's too wide. I don't know if I'm seeing something that people aren't, but I know Journey's someone people like to fade, but I just think that there's some value there. And I think that Morozov's showing how he almost got dusted in his last fight, and he has shown issues with his cardio. I don't know, man. I think Newsom might be a live dog. What's your thoughts?
Me and Sergey, we ain't friends, man, because there was before I went to Cuba, man, like, this is my first, and then we're talking about February last year, wherever he fought Douglas de la Silva, or De Andrade, sorry. And I was so sold on the Andrade, and then I was like, nah, man, I fell into the hype, made a full card parlay, put $50 on it, because I said, fuck it, I can't gamble tonight, gotta be up at 4 a.m. And he's the only one that lost whenever I was originally on it. And that ticket would have paid out like $4,000 or something stupid. So him and I are weird off friends, but in retrospect, I think he wins this fight. But I agree with you, man. I think it's super greasy. I think the line's wide. He gets clipped in every single fight that he has. And unless he really goes out there and pushes the wrestling pace, which he kind of struggles to do with his cardio issues, he tends to get clipped. So I wouldn't touch this fight, man. I think it's way too greasy.
I may not. I may put it out as even like a greasy play, literally like post it as a greasy play, and I'll make it mine. So I'll put my name on it, not you. But I don't know, man. I think there's a fade in Morozov, and I think there's some avenues for Newsom, but maybe I should stay off the first fight of the night. All right, so if we look at it, let's try to, we don't have to necessarily nail down too many spots because it seems like we might be on a lot of dogs, so we may have to look at some over-unders potentially as well too. The Jared Cannonier about Sean Strickland, we don't have any angles for the podcast. If you look at Arman Tsarukyan and Damir Ismagulov, would you like to take Tsarukyan KO decision as a play?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Tsarukyan KO decision. Albazi and Alessandro Costa, there's not really value in anything there, I don't think, unless you see something.
Now, well, Amir inside the distance at -110 is probably the best way to play it, but
yeah, I don't know. It just seems sketchy. Seems like a Bellator fight. Anyways, Alex Caceres, Julian Rosa. I'd say just get some popcorn and watch this one. And Drew Dober and Bobby Green. I don't think we have plays on either of those, right?
no.
See what the over is on Bobby Green and Drew Dober.
Over 2.5 -175. Good play.
Don't mind that play. Cody Brundage and Michael Olajaychuk. That is our dog of the week potentially, or at least value play of the week in Cody Brundage at what is he sitting at right now?
He's sitting at +235.
Perfect. Cheyenne Blismus is our pick, but we will stay off that fight over 1.5. What's that currently sitting at?
You have to go the over 2.5, and it's sitting at -230.
Yeah. Jake Matthews and Matthew Semmelsberger. I know that you're looking at the KO, but I like the KO decision on that one. We will see what the play is for that. I don't know what the line is currently sitting at. And your sleeper play, Deron Wynn, by decision, by John Fitching, laying on a guy like a blanket. All right. And we're going to go with our money line play is going to be Kak Romanov. And obviously, we're sort of chopping it up right now, but I will post all of the plays that are official. Mahashate and Rafa Garcia, what's your take on that? Like, we're going to take an angle on that?
Yeah, I think Garcia decision, man. Or I think Garcia money line's good. It's -135.
Okay, so maybe we'll take 2 money lines for the day and call it a day on that. Brian Battle will leave off the table, even though I was sort of leaning it. I will take it off the table. You sort of convinced me to maybe at least that it might be a little bit too greasy, and I want to stay off it. So Manel Cop, I don't mind that, man. And I think if we don't have enough plays, Manel Cop money line or by KO, sorry, actually might be a play.
I like it.
Or maybe Manel Cop like round 1, 2, something, I don't know, something like that. Or maybe even we'll figure out where the best angle is. We'll talk about it. And then Sergey Morozov and Journey Newsom. I may make a greasy play on a dog.
Newsom by KO is +500. So
yeah, you know what? There's the way to maybe attack that tinfoil prop play. But if he wins by decision, that would suck. Anyways, maybe finish only. We'll see what that is. Newsom finish only might be actually a really good play.
Set.
I didn't know if you were looking for it. Okay. I'm Callum McGregor.
It's not up yet.
I'm Callum McGregor. He is Nick Eagle-Eye. I think we found some angles, but before we go on this very serious matter, it's not about an FBI or whatever it is, investigation into fixed betting. Dalcha Lungambula, and I still said his name wrong. He's no longer with us in the UFC. I just want to know if you're okay.
You know what? Hang tight. I have something for Dalcha, okay? Just give me 1 second.
Okay. What's he going to do? A shoey for Dalcha? I'm sort of scared. He's going to get me kicked off YouTube. He's going to get me kicked off YouTube. Did you make a Photoshop picture of you and him hugging or something?
No. Just because it's the last thing of the year.
Okay, so
I'm not going to shoey it.
I shouldn't say
anything. I'm not going to shoey it.
I will let you talk.
But I will shotgun it. Rest in peace, Dalcha. You are no longer with us in the UFC.
And your head disappeared on screen when you did that. That was extra special.
Perfect.
Okay. So that is out of the way. And Dalcha, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Dalcha.
Okay, so we don't have to talk about him anymore, at least for a little while. Maybe he makes his way back, but I have imagined that he will be signed by Bellator or PFL within about a week. For Nick Eagle, I am Callum McGregor. We like to watch tape. We like to break down angles. We like to find whatever damn spots we can. And, you know.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number one rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework, you know what I mean?
But this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
He did not tap.
Let's go! Let's go!